Imagine this. You wake up one morning and there's a letter on your doorstep. Heavy paper, official seal, stamped in black ink, Department of Existence. You open it. Welcome, it reads. You are now responsible for yourself, for others, for debts you did not incur, and for a future you cannot control. You will be judged on your performance. There are penalties for non-compliance. There is no opt-out clause. Please sign below to acknowledge receipt. You look down at the signature line. It's already filled in. The word there, in ink that seems older than you are, is simply birth. You never applied for this contract. You never interviewed. You never even knew the position was open. Yet here you are, responsible, accountable, obligated, expected to choose well, work hard, contribute meaningfully, and somehow make sense of it all. And if you fail, society will ask why you squandered your opportunity. If you suffer, they'll wonder what choices led you here. If you question the terms, you'll be told you're ungrateful. This is the central paradox of human existence. We punish people for crimes. We praise them for virtues. We build entire legal systems, moral frameworks, and social institutions on the assumption that individuals are responsible for their actions, but none of us, not one, consented to exist in the first place. We never signed up. We were simply assigned. Is this paradox coherent? Or is it a necessary fiction, a story we must tell ourselves so that society doesn't collapse into chaos? The stakes are everywhere. Personal, the epidemic of burnout, the weight of anxiety, the sense so many people describe of being drafted into a life they never chose, carrying what we might call meaning debt, the obligation to find purpose in a game whose rules were written before you arrived. Social, the agonizing debates over whether it's ethical to have children, who owes what to whom, whether we're responsible for climate catastrophes we inherited, whether we owe our parents care simply because they gave us life. Consider the college student, drowning in debt they never agreed to take on, told to own their future, while the future was shaped by policies, economies, and histories that began decades before their birth. Or the worker in a precarious gig economy, charged with choosing a fulfilling career path when their choices are constrained by class, geography, and political structures entirely beyond their control. If we cannot consent to existence itself, what is the moral basis for the responsibilities we're expected to bear? Are we guilty of anything by simply being? This is not a new question. We are not the first to feel thrown into a story mid-sentence, to arrive on stage without a script. History has wrestled with this, through ancient myths of fate and destiny, through religious doctrines of duty and stewardship, through existentialist revolts against meaninglessness. Humanity has always known on some level that life is an imposition. The question is, what do we do with that knowledge? We are thrown among ancestors. Long before existentialists coined the term, the ancient Greeks knew what it meant to be trapped by unchosen fate. Oedipus didn't choose his destiny. He was born into a prophecy, fled from it, and in fleeing, fulfilled it exactly. Yet he is held responsible. He blinds himself. He accepts exile. The tragedy hinges on this. He bears the weight of actions that were, in a cosmic sense, inevitable. This is where the tension begins, between unchosen circumstances and moral accountability. The Stoics saw this tension and chose a different response: acceptance. Epictetus, born a slave, taught that while we cannot control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. You are an actor in a play, he wrote, the character of which is determined by someone else. Your job is not to rewrite the script. Your job is to play your assigned role with dignity and excellence. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, echoed this. The universe has cast you in a part. Fulfill it well. Don't rage against the cosmic order. Align yourself with it. Responsibility, for the Stoics, was not about choosing your life. It was about excelling within the life you were given, a profound obedience to reality. Religion took this further, reframing life not as a burden, but as a gift. And gifts come with obligations. In Judeo-Christian thought, existence is divine stewardship. You are given talents. You are expected to multiply them.
The parable of the talents is a story of accountability. The servant who buries his gift is condemned. You didn't choose to receive the gift, but you will be judged on what you do with smaller it. And then there's original sin. Augustine argued that every human inherits the guilt of Adam, a debt incurred before you existed, a stain you carry from birth.
You are born already in the red. Redemption is possible, but the baseline is deficit. Yet even within this framework, there's a haunting admission. The Talmud records a rabbinic debate. It would have been better for man not to have been created than to have been created. The sages vote, and the conclusion is stark. Yes, it would have been better not to exist, but now that he has been created, let him examine his deeds. A profound pivot from metaphysical regret to ethical responsibility. Buddhism takes another path entirely. The first noble truth, birth is dukkha, suffering, dissatisfaction, unsatisfactoriness. To be born is to enter into a cycle of craving and loss, a wheel of becoming you did not choose to spin. Samsara is an involuntary inheritance. But the point is not to curse existence. It's to transcend it, to end the cycle not through nihilism, but through liberation from attachment, from the causes of suffering. Life is a problem to be solved, not by consent, but by awakening. As the Enlightenment arrived, so did a new vocabulary, consent. Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau all built political legitimacy on the idea that authority requires the consent of the governed. But David Hume saw the problem immediately. He asked, when did you consent? When did you sign the social contract? You didn't. You were born into a nation, a legal system, a set of obligations. Your consent is a fiction we call tacit. The idea that by continuing to live here, you agree to the terms. But what if you can't leave? What if exit is impossible? Then consent becomes indistinguishable from coercion. Kant tried to rescue autonomy. He argued that moral responsibility rests on treating people as ends in themselves, never merely as means. Respect for persons requires respecting their capacity for self-legislation, their ability to author their own moral law. But here's the problem. Can creating a person, bringing someone into existence without their consent, ever align with treating them as an end? Or is procreation, by definition, using someone as a means to your own desires for meaning, legacy, or love? Kant doesn't answer this. The question hovers. Then comes the 20th century, and with it, the existentialists. Heidegger gives us Geworfenheit, thrownness. You are always already in a world you did not design, surrounded by meanings you did not choose, embedded in a history that precedes you. Authenticity is not about escaping this condition. It's about owning your response to it. Sartre radicalizes this. Man is condemned to be free. There is no blueprint, no divine script. You have no essence that precedes your existence. You are radically free, and therefore radically responsible. You cannot escape interpretation. Every action is a choice, even inaction. Even despair is a choice. Camus offers a different tone, absurdist, defiant. Life is Sisyphus pushing a boulder up a mountain, only to watch it roll back down forever. The universe is indifferent. Meaning is absent. And yet, Camus insists, we must imagine Sisyphus happy. Why? Because he revolts. He chooses to push the rock. He transforms an imposed burden into a chosen stance. The absurd becomes a kind of freedom. But not everyone finds rebellion liberating. Schopenhauer saw existence as a curse. The will to live is a blind, insatiable force that drives all beings to suffer. We are born, we desire. We suffer the absence of what we desire, and if we attain it, we suffer boredom. Non-existence, he suggested, would be preferable. Peter Wessel Zapffe, a Norwegian philosopher, took this further in his essay, The Last Messiah. Human consciousness, he argued, is overdeveloped for happiness. We are aware of too much, our mortality, the futility of our projects, the silence of the cosmos. To survive psychologically, we deploy 4 defense mechanisms: isolation, repressing disturbing thoughts; anchoring, clinging to values and goals; distraction, keeping busy; and sublimation, transforming suffering into art. But these are merely coping strategies. They manage the horror. They don't resolve it. David Benatar offers the most systematic contemporary case for antinatalism. His asymmetry argument goes like this: the presence of pain is bad. The absence of pain is good, even if no one is around to enjoy that absence. The absence of pleasure is not bad if no one exists to be deprived of it. Therefore, coming into existence is always a net harm. Every life contains suffering. Non-existence harms no one. It's a cold equation, and it's difficult to refute on purely logical grounds. Derek Parfit complicates this with the non-identity problem. If your existence depends on the specific circumstances of your conception, then changing those circumstances would mean a different person exists. So can we say that bringing you into existence harmed you specifically? If your parents had waited a month, you wouldn't exist. Someone else would. The very identity of the person depends on the conditions of their creation. This makes the notion of consent or harm conceptually slippery. And then there's moral luck. Bernard Williams and Thomas Nagel explored how outcomes we don't control shape how we judge people morally. You are born into a certain family, nation, body, historical moment. You didn't choose any of it. Yet it determines much of what you can do, and much of how you'll be judged. John Rawls took this seriously. His Veil of Ignorance thought experiment asks, what principles of justice would you choose if you didn't know where you'd end up in society? You might be rich or poor, healthy or sick, male or female, born in a democracy or a dictatorship. Rawls argues that rational people would choose fairness because no one consents to their starting position. Justice becomes the attempt to balance the moral luck of birth. Across centuries, across cultures, humanity oscillates. Obedience to fate, revolt against meaninglessness, attempts to redesign the game. But beneath all these philosophies is something. There is a ledger in your mind. You don't see it consciously, but it's there, tracking debts, obligations, credits, and deficits. Life gets entered into this ledger the moment you become aware of it, and from that point on, your psychology begins performing calculations. Am I in the black or the red? Do I owe or am I owed? Is existence something I'm responsible for or something I'm entitled to? This is where philosophy meets the machinery of the self. Let's start with locus of control, a concept from psychologist Julian Rotter. Some people have an internal locus of control. They believe their actions meaningfully shape outcomes. Others have an external locus. They see their lives as determined by forces beyond them: luck, other people, fate, systems. Here's the paradox. Internal locus correlates with resilience, achievement, and mental health. It helps you act, take risks, persist. But it also amplifies guilt and self-blame when outcomes are constrained by forces you actually cannot control. You internalize failure as personal inadequacy. External locus protects you from self-blame. It wasn't your fault, the system is rigged, but it also breeds helplessness. If nothing you do matters, why try? The weight of being shifts depending on which lens you adopt. Now consider the just world hypothesis. We are psychologically motivated to believe that people get what they deserve. Good things happen to good people. Bad things happen to bad people. This belief makes the world feel predictable and safe. But it has a dark side. It pressures us to retroactively claim choice to explain suffering. I chose this career. I chose this relationship. I could have worked harder. Even when the choice was shaped by poverty, trauma, discrimination, or sheer bad luck, we invent a narrative of agency to preserve the belief that the world is just. This reduces cognitive dissonance, but at the cost of inflating self-blame and normalizing oppression. Cognitive dissonance itself is central here. When we hold two conflicting beliefs, I did not choose to exist, and I am responsible for my life, we experience psychological discomfort. To resolve it, we often rewrite the past. We tell ourselves, I wanted this all along. We fabricate consent after the fact. This is adaptive in one sense. It restores coherence, but it can also trap us. If you convince yourself that you chose harmful conditions, you're less likely to challenge or escape them. Post hoc consent becomes a prison. Shame and guilt operate differently, and the distinction matters. Guilt is about behavior. I did something wrong. It can be reparative. You can apologize, make amends, change. Shame is about identity. I am bad. It's paralyzing. It isolates. It tells you the problem isn't what you did, but what you are. Cultures, families, and religions that over-index on shame transform existence into original fault. You are born guilty. Your very being is the problem. And if being is the problem, no action can redeem you. Attachment theory, pioneered by John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth, reveals how early relationships shape our sense of agency. Securely attached children, those whose caregivers were responsive, attuned, predictable, develop a felt sense of autonomy even within constraints. They learn that their needs matter, that they can affect the world, and that relationships are sources of support, not demand. Insecurely attached children learn the opposite. Anxious attachment breeds hypervigilance. I must constantly prove my worth. Avoidant attachment breeds withdrawal. I can't rely on anyone. Disorganized attachment breeds terror. The people I need are also the people who hurt me. These patterns shape how we experience responsibility. Does life feel like an invitation, or an interrogation, a collaboration, or a conscription? Self-determination theory, developed by Edward Desai and Richard Ryan, identifies three basic psychological needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. When these needs are met, we flourish. We experience responsibility as self-endorsed, as coming from within rather than imposed from without. But when life undermines these needs, through economic precarity, authoritarian systems, isolation, existence feels coercive. You are responsible, but not autonomous. You are expected to perform, but not supported. The gap between obligation and capacity becomes unbearable. Learned helplessness, discovered by Martin Seligman in experiments with dogs, shows what happens when organisms are repeatedly subjected to uncontrollable adverse events. They stop trying. Even when escape becomes possible, they remain passive. They have learned that their actions don't matter. But Seligman also discovered learned hopefulness. Explanatory style matters. If you interpret setbacks as stable, it's always like this. Global, everything is broken. And internal, it's my fault. You spiral into depression. If you interpret them as temporary, specific, and external, you retain agency. The narrative you tell about your burdens determines whether they crush you or galvanize you. Terror management theory suggests that much of human behavior is driven by death anxiety. We are aware that we will die, and this knowledge is terrifying. To cope, we invest in cultural worldviews, religions, nations, ideologies that promise symbolic immortality through legacy, meaning, and values. Responsibilities become existential shields. To fulfill your duty is to prove you matter, that your life has significance beyond its biological brevity. To abandon responsibility, to drop the weight society hands you, can feel like dropping the self, like dissolving into meaninglessness. This is why people cling to obligations that harm them. Letting go feels like annihilation. Barry Schwartz, in The Paradox of Choice, reveals another mechanism. Hyperchoice breeds paralysis and regret. When you have too many options, the burden of choosing well becomes overwhelming. You can't blame fate or circumstance anymore. You chose this, and if it didn't work out, it's your fault. Life becomes a constant audit of wrong decisions. The more freedom you're told you have, the more crushing the responsibility becomes. Narrative identity, explored by psychologist Dan McAdams, shows how we make sense of our lives by crafting stories. Some people construct redemption narratives. I was lost, but now I'm found. Others build contamination narratives. Things were good, but it all went wrong. The story you tell determines your relationship to responsibility. I was drafted by life, then I chose my mission, transforms passive burden into active authorship. It doesn't deny the unchosen start, but it claims the continuation. Here's a crucial distinction. Responsibility is not the same as blame. Responsibility can be empowering. It's Viktor Frankl in a concentration camp choosing his attitude. It's James Baldwin writing essays that change history. It's your grandmother raising children through poverty with grace. Responsibility is the ability to respond, to craft meaning from chaos. Blame, on the other hand, fixates on fault. It demands a culprit. It punishes. It traps. Systems, families, schools, workplaces, nations that conflate responsibility and blame multiply the weight of simply being alive. But here's the mystery. Some people convert obligations into devotion. They take on burdens they didn't choose, caring for a sick parent, fighting for a doomed cause, raising a child with disabilities, and they describe these as the most meaningful parts of their lives. How? They reframe. From I must to I will. From this was imposed to this is mine. They select what Nietzsche might call worthy burdens, weights that, in carrying them, make you more fully human. This doesn't deny limits. It doesn't deny luck. It doesn't pretend life is fair. It simply says, given that I'm here, what will I carry on purpose? And that question has never been more urgent. Because today, the mechanisms we've just explored are supercharged by technology, economics, and culture. Structures that both demand agency and systematically undermine it. We live in an age that has perfected the art of the imposed choice. You've probably clicked, I agree, 1,000 times this year. Terms of service, privacy policies, user agreements, walls of legal text you'll never read, written by attorneys you'll never meet, governing platforms you can't avoid. You click because opting out means exile from the digital commons. No email, no maps, no connection. This is the new normal. Participation implies consent, even when refusal is impossible, and it mirrors, almost exactly, the condition of being born. Welcome to the modern battlefield, the age of imposed choice. Let's start with the platforms. Social media has turned existence into a perpetual performance review. You are your profile. Your feed is your resume. Your likes, shares, and followers are quantifiable proof of your value, or lack thereof. The paradox of choice becomes public and gamified. What you post, how you present yourself, which causes you amplify, all of it is a choice you'll be judged for. Did you say the right thing? Did you post at the right time? Is your brand coherent? And if you fail, if your post flops, if your reach declines, the platform doesn't take responsibility. You do. The algorithm is neutral, you're told. The audience has spoken. The market has decided. You are solely accountable for your digital existence. even though the rules of engagement are proprietary, opaque, and constantly shifting. This is neoliberal responsibilization at its most intimate. Let's zoom out. Over the past 40 years, risk has been systematically transferred from institutions to individuals. Pensions became 401ks, now you manage your own retirement, and if the market crashes when you're 64, that's your problem. Employer-sponsored healthcare became individual plans. Navigate the labyrinth yourself. Publicly funded education became student loans. You are now in debt for the right to compete. Every safety net has been replaced with a personal responsibility mandate. You're told you're free. Free to choose your career, your investments, your healthcare provider, your future. But what you're actually free to do is absorb risks that used to be borne collectively. When you fail, it's not a systemic problem. It's your failure. You didn't work hard enough. You didn't plan well enough. You made bad choices. Structural burdens are rebranded as personal audits. Work has become particularly insidious. The old model, you do a job, you clock out, is dead. Now, you are your own startup. You are an entrepreneur of the self. You don't have a career. You have a personal brand. You don't have hobbies. You have side hustles. Productivity apps track your sleep, your focus, your habits. Sundays aren't rest. They're optimization opportunities. Burnout isn't a sign that the system is broken. It's a badge of honor, proof that you're serious, that you're committed. Responsibility has colonized identity. And when people break under this weight, when they can't keep up, society offers self-care, a bath bomb, a meditation app, a wellness retreat. The problem, we're told, is your resilience, not the system that demands infinite resilience. But something is shifting. Around the world, people are refusing. In China, it's called Tang Ping, lying flat. A rejection of the relentless grind, the expectation that you sacrifice your entire life for economic productivity. In Japan, it's hikikomori, young people withdrawing from society entirely, sometimes for years. In the West, it's the Great Resignation, quiet quitting, the refusal to hustle, to perform, to pretend that work is meaning. These are not solutions. They're symptoms. They're millions of individuals saying quietly or loudly, I did not agree to these terms. But refusal comes at a cost: economic precarity, social judgment, isolation. Meanwhile, another debate is sharpening: procreation. Is bringing a child into existence a gift or a harm? Climate anxiety has made this urgent. The planet is warming. Ecosystems are collapsing. Future generations will inherit catastrophes they didn't cause. Online communities dedicated to antinatalism are growing. Birth strike movements argue that it's unethical to create new people in a world this broken. This isn't abstract philosophy anymore. It's dinner table conversation. The law has tried, awkwardly, to address this. Wrongful birth lawsuits allow parents to sue doctors for failing to diagnose conditions that, had they known, would have led them to terminate a pregnancy. But wrongful life suits, where the child sues for being born, are almost universally rejected by courts. Why? Because the law cannot coherently treat existence itself as an injury. To do so would undermine the entire framework of rights, personhood, and value that legal systems are built on. So the law simply refuses the question. And here's the irony. We live in an age that has elevated consent to a central moral principle. Consent in sexual ethics: enthusiastic, ongoing, revocable. Consent in data privacy: opt-in, not opt-out. Consent in medical procedures: informed, voluntary, documented. Consent is sacred. Except for the one thing no one ever consented to: being here in the first place. That exception haunts everything. Civic life now feels like a moral emergency. Vote, organize, protest, educate yourself, speak out, donate, show up. The crises are real. Pandemics, climate collapse, authoritarianism, AI risks. And the message is clear. You are responsible. Your silence is complicity. Your inaction is a choice. And maybe that's true. Maybe it is. But it's also true that you didn't create these crises. You were born into them. And the scale of what you're asked to shoulder, individually, is staggering. You're responsible for your carbon footprint, even though 100 companies produce 70% of global emissions. You're responsible for staying informed, even though the information environment is designed to fracture your attention and inflame your emotions. You're responsible for fixing democracy, even though the levers of power are largely inaccessible to you. The weight of simply living generates a ledger you're expected to pay. And beneath it all, quietly shaping everything, are the algorithms. Recommendation engines decide what you see, what you buy, what you believe. They nudge, they curate, they optimize, not for your flourishing, but for engagement, for time on platform, for profit. Your choices feel like yours, but they're managed, pre-selected. The autonomy you're promised is a fiction wrapped in a user interface. This is the modern condition, hyper-individualized responsibility in a world of systematically constrained agency. Yet, there are glimpses of something else. 4-day workweek pilots are showing that people are more productive and healthier with less time at work. Universal basic income experiments are revealing that when you give people unconditional security, they don't become lazy. They take risks, start projects, care for each other. Worker cooperatives are proving that businesses can be democratic, that ownership and accountability can be shared. Mutual aid networks are proliferating, neighbors helping neighbors without the logic of debt or transaction, just because we're all in this together. These are small, fragile experiments. They don't solve everything, but they suggest a different question. Not, how do I survive the weight I've been handed? But, how do we redistribute unchosen burdens so that they become bearable? Or better, so that the weights we carry are ones we choose? In a world of coerced choice and managed consent, the old question returns with new urgency. If we didn't choose to be, how do we choose to bear? Let's return to where we began. The letter from the Department of Existence. The contract you never signed. The responsibility that began before you could speak, that will continue after you can't. We've traveled through history, through Greek fate and Stoic discipline, through religious duty and existential revolt, through the pessimism of Schopenhauer and the asymmetry of Benatar. We've descended into psychology, into the ledgers of shame and guilt, the mechanisms of learned helplessness and narrative identity, the ways we convert I must into I will, or collapse under the weight entirely. We've mapped the modern battlefield, the platforms that quantify your worth, the economic systems that outsource risk to your shoulders, the civic crises that demand your constant vigilance, the algorithms that nudge you toward a life you never quite chose. And through it all, one paradox has remained. Life arrives without our consent, yet it furnishes the only stage on which consent can mean anything. You did not choose to exist, but you are here. And now, in this bewildering, beautiful, broken world, you face a second question, not about arrival, but about commitment. To what will you consent to belong? There are no perfect answers, but there are moves you can make. Quiet, deliberate, clarifying. First, name the unchosen. Map the constraints you did not select. Your body, your family, your country, your century, your class. The traumas you inherited, the privileges you were handed, the luck, good and bad, that shaped you before you could shape yourself. This isn't about blame, it's about clarity. You cannot choose what to carry until you see what was placed on your back before you were old enough to consent. Second, choose your vows. Identify the responsibilities you will carry on purpose. Not because society demands it, not because you're afraid of judgment, but because these weights, in lifting them, make you more fully who you want to be. Maybe it's caring for someone who cannot care for themselves. Maybe it's making something true or beautiful. Maybe it's fighting for a world where fewer people have to carry what you carried. These are your chosen burdens. And chosen burdens are not the same as imposed ones. They have a different gravity, a different meaning. Third, negotiate the rest. Decline the inherited obligations that counterfeit as duty, but drain your life without filling it. The job that demands your soul for a paycheck. The family expectation that was never really about you. The social script that says you owe productivity, performance, perpetual optimization. You don't have to carry everything, and you don't have to pretend that refusal is betrayal. Some weights are not yours to lift. This is not a program, it's not a solution, it's a lens. The consent that matters most may not be to having been born. That ship has sailed. You're here. The question is, which burdens will you embrace so that others, maybe people you'll never meet, don't have to? Not, do I accept life? But, what will I stand for while I'm alive? Imagine a different letter, not the one you received at birth, but one you write yourself. Blank paper, a title at the top, terms of my existence. You fill it in, not once, but each year. Revising as you grow, as you learn, as you change. This is what I will carry. This is what I will create. This is what I will defend. This is what I will refuse. And at the bottom, your signature, not birth, not a word someone else wrote. Your name, freely given. Because in the end, the deepest responsibility may be this: to live in such a way that your existence, unchosen as it was, becomes a gift to those who come after. Not because you owe them, but because you chose to. If you could not consent to arrive, to what, today, will you consent to belong?